because you're interested in all things training and organizational development, MBTI. This channel covers a wide array of topics on training. So I have some notes here so that I don't forget to tell you some things, so you'll see me glancing down. But I appreciate you stopping by. So in this video, you're going to learn 3 critical components that you need to know before you actually start developing training. So the first one is knowing your audience, and I'll do a future video on going more in depth on what an audience analysis would look like and how you do it. But essentially, you need to know who you're training. So, for example, do you have learners that are spread out across the United States, perhaps internationally? Are they based in your building? You know, so you're sort of training people within your own organization. And you also need to know the level of your learners. So, for example, are they high level in your organization, or are they more, intern, just starting out in their career? So that's an important component to know, because your training design will be geared toward that level. You need to know your audience. So stay tuned for a future video on going more in depth on that and how to do it. The second thing you need to know is, like, what is your outcome? What is your intended outcome? Are you looking to teach someone about a new policy? Or are you trying to get them to create something? So knowing your sort of end goal in mind, you need to sort of have that in mind before you start developing your training. And again, learning how to write training objectives around that outcome will be in a future video, so stay tuned. Also, are you trying to get them to learn a new procedure? So knowing your intended outcome is step number 2. So step number 3 is, what is your delivery method? So knowing your audience, if they are spread out across the United States, you might consider doing an online training through Adobe Connect, for example. So your intended delivery method is going to be based on where your audience is. Do you want to have a live online training where people come at a certain time, or do you want to record a webinar for people to listen at any point, and you're just kind of talking about a particular topic? Or do you want to have an instructor-led training where folks come into a classroom? And so there's all different ways of delivering training to your learners. So just thinking through, based on where people are, who your audience is, what is your delivery method? So there's 3 critical questions you kind of need to ask yourself before you begin developing training or designing your training. So again, step 1 is knowing your audience. So it's an audience analysis. We will cover that more in depth and how you actually do that, but it's just a question you ask yourself. Who is your audience? Where are they coming from in the organization? Are they spread out over the United States? Are they international? Are they in your current location where you're located? What level of the organization are they in? Those are all important factors in getting to know your audience before you can begin your training. Your intended outcome, that ultimately leads into what your training objectives are going to be, and I'm going to do a future video on that as well, on how to write training objectives. But in general, what is your high level outcome that you're hoping to do? Are you trying to teach your learners a new system? Are you trying to get them to know a new policy or a new procedure or some standard operating procedure that you've just developed? So knowing what your overall intended outcome is going to be, that's kind of like where you begin with writing training objectives. And then the last one is, what is your delivery method? And your delivery method could be anything from a webinar, from a live instructor-led training online. You could do an in-person classroom training where you're standing up like a traditional classroom would be, standing up doing training for those in your organization. So there's different ways to do it. So just those 3 questions you need to kind of ask yourself before you even begin training design. Well, that wraps up for today. Thank you for stopping by. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. This channel will be all about training and organizational development, MBTI, so stay tuned for future videos, and I'll see you on the next